Coming to you from Rockingham, IPL Radio.
Hey. Hope you like that song. So we've got Damien Porter here. How are you?
Very well. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Yes, I know. It's amazing. So thankful that you've come in today. And you got a box of goodies for us to have a look at. I did actually see them on Facebook. So your Facebook page and Insta is the How Not to Die guy, right?
That's correct. I came up with it myself. So, How Not to Die guy encompasses a lot of what I do.
And so I love, when people are thinking about what businesses they're going to have, what it's going to be named. So what made you think of, naming it that?
That was easy. Really tough time to come up with the name, but what I wanted to do, Nicole, was use my special forces and training and experience and my police officer training experience to help others. Now, people do that in this space in many different ways. In America, you got them teaching tactical shooting and all that fancy stuff. You got the middle of the gym here in North Fremantle, I think, and they're training people for those selection processes. And I just thought, what can I do that's different? I've been teaching self-defense for so long, 23 years now, and I thought, let's do the soft skills, the things that I think are normal that you might not think is something you need to do. So literally the first thing I did on social media was lock the car door. Instant stopping carjacking, instant stopping someone from a bad guy from getting into your car. And I came up with How Not to Die guy because all those little things is literally how not to die. So it's a bit of a play on words. People like the name, and I can teach them the soft skills all through to the hard skills as well.
And so when you say soft skills, I know what that's trying to say, but what is that meaning, please?
Great question. Just yesterday I had a couple of girls that are going overseas on a couple of trips, and a soft skill is literally a door wedge for your hotel room. Slam that under the hotel door, guy can't get in. That's a soft skill. The last thing you want to do is go hands-on with a guy in your room, a bad guy, because they do bad things, but that's a soft skill. And then, of course, we teach them the worst-case scenario, which is the hard skills, which is giving the bad guy the good news.
Okay, what does that mean?
Eyes, throat, knees down. So all the unarmed combat, self-defense stuff that I've taught for so long, I teach that to people that need that in the situations they're going into.
It's interesting because I like to stay at hotels, and I woke up one morning and I had this piece of paper underneath my door. Yeah, and someone had written something, and it was quite rude. And I was like, okay, I don't know why someone would write that, but is that the kind of when you say soft skill? Then obviously someone had followed me, or,
yes, exactly,
and then had put that. So maybe they thought I was going to come past it and open the door and entertain whatever that was about. Obviously, I didn't. But so when you're saying this wedge under the door, is there times where, like, say for instance, that person was trying to do whatever they do? I have no idea because I was like, what's with that? So what is with that? What is that about?
Yeah, I mean, look, soft skill for that would be situational awareness beforehand. Maybe from me teaching you a few skills, you'd be able to see that bad guy standing out, looking a bit different than everybody else. I was teaching these girls yesterday. I say girls because I'm old now, as they're probably in their 30s. But I was teaching them that when you get to your destination, just sit down for 10 minutes and just tune into the environment. See everything that's going on around you. That looks normal. Everybody's doing this, but that guy over there is acting weird because it's hard in a new environment. So situation awareness, seeing what's going on, should be able to stop these things. But I also teach worst case scenario, that all fails. You're out having a great time with your girls and whatever's going on, and you miss that weirdo looking at you, and now he's followed you back to your hotel room, waited for you to close the door, and he slipped a note underneath your door. That door wedge can change his mind when he tries to open the door because he can't open it. And then you got something like a door alarm. This is incredibly loud, this thing. Slips under the door, and horrible sounds. That can be your early warning system, rather than some guys used a coat hanger, got your door handle, open it up, and is inside your hotel room.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that was a thing. Because I do worry about when I'm with the doors for the windows, like for the doors outside leading onto the balcony. I do worry, like, are they safe? Sometimes they've got a latch and sometimes they don't. So then I think, can someone like climb up and get in? But that's good to have this kind of. I didn't actually know that hotel rooms can be broken into like that. You just assume that because they're a swipe card, they're all safe.
No, so remember in a hotel room you can lock the door from the inside, but as soon as you put the handle down, it unlocks automatically.
Oh, yeah.
So all they got to do is get a coat hanger underneath, shaped right, pull the handle down, and then you've got the more technical guys. Being a police officer, if I step back a step, criminals aren't criminal masterminds.
Okay.
They're pretty dumb.
Okay.
But they use the basic things. So most of them would just use a coat hanger, pull that handle down, and voila, they're into their room. Yeah. But, unless it's a stalky guy that slipped a note underneath your door, most of them are just trying to, opportunistic. They're just trying to steal stuff, and you just happen to be in there. So $2 from Bunnings, wooden door wedge, can save your life. Great for real estate agents as well. I've taught a lot of those people there, and you want to have that in your door and keep it open so the bad guy can't come in, like it happened to one female at the home open, came in, locked the door and turned around towards her.
Ah. Yeah, I could see that happening as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they just think, oh, yeah.
But now we got a file in your brain and we got a file in your listeners' brains. Hang on a sec, I do real estate, I show homes, I'll go down to Bunnings, get a $2 door wedge, and that'll stop that from happening. It can change a bad guy's mind and interrupt that process of what they had planned.
Oh, so when they can't get in, that's what you're saying. Like, or with the real estate lady, say, like, the home open's finished or, and then then obviously the door could still be open, so she locks it, and then she puts that wedge there, and she's just, filling out the paperwork or making sure that everyone has a link for link applications or buying houses, blah blah. And then is that what she would do then? Just put that. So
there for that one. The actual incident that she told me about is it was a single bedroom apartment. The last people had been through, and the last guy who turned up, only a single doorway in, he entered the door, looked at her, closed the door, locked it, and went to approach her. She's sitting there by herself with a bad guy. Luckily, a late couple knocked on the door to view. So in this case, she'd actually use the door wedge to wedge it open and keep it open. So when he goes to close the door on her, hang on a sec, that's not part of his criminal mastermind, air quotes plan. And that can be an interruption because we need to change that bad guy's thought process. So those are the soft skills.
Okay, so soft skills are like for using, say, some type of device or equipment or something.
Yeah, or lock your car door.
Oh, yeah.
There was a carjacking just the other day, or attempted carjacking, and the guy's pulling the handle. The door's locked. Well done, that person.
Yeah.
The windows are up. Well done, that person. There was another carjacking the other day, and a car had come in front of them and stopped them. When they get out of the car, and this is a hard skill, then you just drive straight at that person.
Oh,
so there's the difference between a soft skill, you're locking the door, super easy, you don't have to go to some fancy self-defense class, you don't have to do years of training, right through to, hang on a sec, this is life-threatening, I need to do something about this. Or even yesterday in Sydney with a stabbing, was I can talk about that one as well, but that requires both soft skills and hard skills.
So is that like a stabbing? I haven't seen that one. A stabbing in public?
So what happened was a guy, husband and wife were driving. He was stabbing her and slashing her as he was driving, went through an intersection, massive car crash. And what do you do at a car crash? You get out and help, right? Mm-hmm. Well, he slashed another 4 people who came to help. And the cop, I'm going to be very polite here and say that either the poorly trained or poorly experienced cop pulled a taser when you should pull a gun. You don't bring a taser to a knife fight, and unfortunately he ended up getting stabbed. So in that case, you're getting out to help, and you see this crazy guy, get back in your car and use that car as your tool, as you rightly said, because you're going to run that guy over. You don't want him to slash the other 4 people.
Yeah. No, I totally get that from personal experiences. I found it is hard to kind of, when you say about a hard skill, and we don't try and just hurt people.
Hell no, it's offending other people.
Yeah. And it's like, I think like when people think people drive people over, right, or drive into people, that it must be, I think something in your brain has to flick over to go, I'm going to die, so I better do something.
Yeah.
And so what do people kind of struggle with, or what can we say to the audience that they're in the situation and they're thinking, oh, I don't know if I could do that. What types of things can we tell them as their thought process? Hopefully, we know that fight, flight and that is going to kick in anyway. The body's going to do whatever it's going to do. But if they could think about this, interview by chance, then what would you want to say to them if you could get into their mind about before?
Thank you so much. And that's all I'm trying to do is give someone, hang on a sec, I heard this weird guy on the radio, he said I could do this and this might save someone's life.
Yeah.
You're so right when you said fight, flight and freeze. Freeze is very normal and it's probably going to happen the most. And freeze is the time between seeing something and acting. It could be a massive gap. With me, it's a very small gap. But what can someone do? They have to flick the switch and they have to decide, I need to turn and face the bad guy and I need to take action. And I say this unreservedly. There was a playground stabbing in France about 2 years ago, and I wrote an article on this. Kids' playground, some grandmas with their little toddlers, I think 6 months to 3 years old, playing their playground. And if for all the parents out there, and I'm a parent, the last thing that you're thinking about is a guy with a knife coming to the playground and stabbing your kids. And this is what happened. What you're thinking about is my kid being bullied? Is my kid playing well with other kids? And is there any weirdos around? Yeah. Well, this Syrian refugee came in with a knife and killed some of the toddlers and some of the babies. And their grandparents were there and they got stabbed as well. It's not what we want to deal with, but it did happen, and that's why I say unreservedly, you have to turn towards a threat and you have to do something. In that case, get your pram. In that case, get your handbag. Get between your toddler, your baby, and the bad guy. Or in the case we're talking about just yesterday, get back in your car. Don't try and fight a knife with your hands, or worse, the cop tried to fight the knife with a taser. It failed. Get back in your car, the big, heavy thing that beats a human every time, and use that as a tool, but you've got to take action. So if someone can listen to this, you've got to turn and see what's going on and take some kind of action. And if that action is you running away, that's absolutely fine because it's self-defense. You're not there to help others. If you're happy to do that, great. But if your self-defense is get in your car and drive the hell away because your kid's in the back, well done you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good. That was a good answer. Because that's the thing as well. Because when it comes to our children, also with your freeze situation, because you're trying to keep your child safe, that is a big thing. And we kind of our mother instinct or fatherly instinct comes in and actually goes. You both need to be safe, and so I believe, I really believe as well. You just need to keep yourself safe because that's what you do. Your first aid training.
Exactly.
It's always
the first thing is danger to yourself, or to the patient.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so that is actually really awesome. I wanted to touch on just your experience. So obviously. You've been in the police force, so that's when you were there. What were you? Because it's such a big scope, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
I'm a police officer. Okay, to me that could be anything. So what were you doing in that space?
So I was a police constable here for Western Australia Police. I went through the police academy in 2008, and I was a general duties police officer at Perth Police Station, mainly patrolling Northbridge, Perth, and some of the surrounds. But ironically, my first ever job was death by cop. This guy wanted to get shot by police because a ranger had taken his dog.
Oh, okay.
Now, being former special forces at the police academy and not really being the same as everybody else, I was probably, and I say probably with air quotes, voted most likely to shoot someone first.
Are you meaning like you're not, as in you're not a civilian, that kind of wording, or you're not?
Yes, exactly. I didn't come from a nursing background. I didn't come from a housewife background, and I mean that was literally what these people were from, or a young middle class white guy. But ironically, the first job was death by cop, and I was the only person he could talk to. He wouldn't talk to anybody else because for some reason I could speak to him on his level.
Yeah.
And mostly, Nicole, policing is about this. I don't know if I ever got in a fight. I restrained people and cuffed them, sure, and tased them. But I don't think I ever got in a fist. I never punched someone ever in my policing career because you should use this and then use your skills. So I was a general duties police officer, and my job really was to stop bad guys if we were there or investigate crimes after they'd been committed.
Okay, I think it's important that police officers do use their mouth correctly, not making judgments before asking people as well, because sometimes they can go in a situation and assume, I would say the perpetrator is lying to them and being a victim themselves, and then they walk in, and so then they just have this prejudgment or way of talking to the person that's actually being hurt.
Yeah.
So I think it's important just for them to actually see it from that point of view. And also we obviously know that police officers can use their skills in a bad way.
Possibly. There's before I came to Perth from New Zealand, we thought all Australian police officers were corrupt. Turns out there was mostly over east. I think the Crime and Corruption Commission, an investigation into the corruption in WA police turned out there was only about 5 corrupt cops in the whole thing, rather than over east where it went up to the commissioner. Going back to what you said, you should use your mouth first. You should go in unbiased and figure out what's going on. But when you said the victim there, it reminded me of a really interesting, I wouldn't say funny, because it wasn't for anybody involved, but really interesting situation. 7:30 on a Friday night in Murray Street in Perth, on the town side, not Northbridge side. Okay. I think it was near Capital nightclub at the time. This guy had been walking down the street with a girl on each arm. Well done him. Some guy behind him didn't like that very much, and he ran up behind him and king hit him and knocked him out cold. We came flying up, my partner and I, in a police car. We were about third or fourth on scene, so first aid's being dealt with the victim, the first victim. The 2 girls are being dealt with. Some bystanders, witnesses are being questioned, what the hell's happened? And there's a guy lying on the ground. And so I go over to him. First aid is what I'm qualified in as a Special Forces operator. So I go in and I'm starting to deal with first aid here, and it's not quite right. And one of the cops said, he's the guy. He's the bad guy. He was playing possum. When all the cops turned up, he knew he was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And so he's trying not to get in trouble. He's like playing unconscious. So, of course, as you said in first aid, when you're determining consciousness levels, you inflict a little bit of pain. So rubbing the chest, the sternum very hard, pinching the earlobes, all those good things. And then next thing, he's on the bonnet and cuffing him and so on. But literally, he played the victim versus the real victim he knocked out.
Yeah.
And it all came out in the wash. But you never know what you're going to get in policing. Day to day. Yeah,
that's true. It always changes, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I remember one time I was in Murray Street, just near the Apple store. There's a lot of street kids used to sit around the little park there, and I like to engage with the people there and talk to them. And this girl sat down beside me and told me she'd been sexually assaulted, and straight away I've gone from a 12 o'clock in the afternoon chat with some kids that might need a bit of mentoring, because you get on the right track, and then this female sitting down, 16 years old, telling me this. So I'm trying to first make sure she's safe and do all these things, but you never know what you're going to get. So you got to use your head and you got to use your mouth.
Yes, you do. You definitely do. You never know what's like. I'm always saying you never know what people are going through.
Exactly.
And I think also being so the people that are coming, so the people that are coming to you, hypothetically, I'm just saying, they might have been like, I do a lot of help with domestic violence survivors and that, and so I think that people aren't as sensitive or whatever the word is for victims, because like as in the survivors, so in the domestic violence thing. So when you're so say for instance, you know, someone's like, okay, yeah, I do want to do self-defense.
Yep.
Their body is going to take over and do the shaking thing or do the am I safe thing. They're going to assess the environment. They'll be on hyper-vigilant kind of mode.
Yes.
They're going to be like, what is this guy going to do? They normally think, is this person safe to talk to?
Of course.
And they're going to, are they going to like touch me or something? I've done self-defense before. And so I'm just going on what like random things come in your mind. So if someone was thinking of doing it, but then they had those intrusive thoughts, what would you say to them, or where would you direct them to like get trust with you?
It's a great point you bring up, and we get all sorts. You know, the last courses I ran the beginners courses after the Bondi stabbings. They were sold out, and some mums brought their 12 and 13-year-old girls along. Some were survivors of domestic abuse and sexual assault. Some were just in their 60s. I think one woman was 68 years old, first time she ever done it. I guess they've already looked at what I do, and they've somehow I've resonated, yes, this guy can assist me, because they do have to feel safe. The first part we do is an intro, my background, then I'll talk to the group and find out what confrontations I've been in, if they're happy to talk about that. But I guess it's communication. You know, are you happy to speak to that? No, that's no problem. And then if they are happy to speak to it, we'll talk through what they did. A survivor has done the right thing. They've got there, they survived, they're alive and they're safe. So well done. Now here's another way you can add on. Here's another file we can access next time. You might want to think about this and think about this. But we don't ever belittle them at all for what they've done, because they did it right. And probably over the 4 hours of a beginner's course, a full self-defense course, we just start super slow, super good distance, good communication, literally speaking like this, and we'll work it up safely to more and more stress. Give them a break, come back and review it, give them more stress, give them a break, come back and review it, and making sure and checking with them all the time how they're going. Explaining to them, it's normal that you're going to, your body's going to shut down here. It's normal that you freak out and can't see anything, your tunnel vision. It's normal to have the tears. We've been through that. I've been through those things. And once they realise that it's not some gruff, sweaty guy rolling around doing jiu-jitsu or anything like that with them, it's literally someone speaking it through and safely increasing the level of stress. I want them to go through it with a guy who's safe, who they know, surrounded by other people that are like-minded. I want them to go through it there and make all mistakes there, so that on the street, it never really happens on the street with a female, it can be in the car, at home, in different situations. I want them to make the mistakes in the class rather than out there on the street, so it's not as much of a shock. But I guess it's communication and finding out where they're at and meeting them where they're at as well.
Thanks for that explanation. That was really awesome. I wanted to touch on, so you did say that, so people are still alive, so then that way they did make the right choice, because we do go back and go, oh, why did I do that? I should have done that.
The black dog, I should have done this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you did it, you're fine.
And you're actually, and like, so it means, okay, yeah, we're safe and we did the right thing. And the thing is not to, I'd say psychoanalyze ourselves. But when you say, so that's, I just wanted to point that out. But then when you say, let them learn about mistakes with you instead of on the street, or then it can be other places. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, sure. So, one example is I teach worst case scenario first, in case the person gets injured or their mum calls up or their kid calls them, they've got to leave the class. So it doesn't take hours to learn. The first thing I teach them is how to protect their head and how to stop themselves getting knocked out in a standing position. Let's essentially flinch and into this position where we protect our head. And then we attack the attacker. So then it's, how can I then stop this bad guy immediately using actual unarmed combat, not fighting, and disable them. And maybe to a very high level or maybe just to a low level. when we do that, we'll rep it. We'll do it reps and reps and reps and reps. You know, maybe 50 times, 100 times in a short period of time, and they'll make mistakes. And that's awesome. Yep. Check your feet, and your feet are in some funky position. Yep. Are your feet where you thought they were? No. Okay, let's put them where they're supposed to be. And then when we're putting them under more stress, they practice that position of protecting their head over and over, and then we actually get them into a kind of a sparring situation, and then they completely forget all of it and do some other crazy thing. Yep, we'll stop there, see what you did there. Yep, okay, that's normal. Your brain's exploded a little bit, very normal under stress. All I did was step that stress up a little bit. Now let's do the thing you were trained to do 100 times. So, yep, recognise what you're doing. No problem. Now we're just going to go back to what you did learn and now apply it here. So it's just giving them that arm around the shoulder, or sometimes, depending on the people, especially if it's males, they might need a kick in the butt, and getting them to do what they're trained to do. But recognising it and not letting them go away unsafe.
I think that's really, really important because it is about, reacting. Or our muscle, or our memory, I should say, not muscle memory, but, memory,
yes.
Or reflex memory, or whatever we're going to call it, to be able to go, okay, yep, this is happening and this is happening. So you instinctively just go boom, like...
you shouldn't be thinking.
Yeah, it just instinctively comes, like,
yes.
As a mum, and also as I was a lecturer in that, so I was always, and about children in that, so I always just look at an environment and I like hear a child crying or something. And
you can immediately, you got the mum ears. You can hear this.
It's full on, yeah. And it just comes out sometimes. So if a child is doing something, I'll just ask, like, and even though I'm not the mum, but like, for instance, my daughter, many times I've caught her before she falls down, and people are like, whoa, that was quick. How did you know that? And it's just instinct, quickly do it. I know I'm kind of watching if she's climbing, and I know her skill, and then, but I wanted to, talk about that where, for instance, how do you, I know you do repetition of getting them to do it over and over again. Did you want to talk about that? I'm sure I was going to ask something else, but
that's okay. You do very well, because when I interview people, I take notes. It's the only way I can keep on track, especially if they say something interesting. I'll make a question and then go back and try and get the flow. I want them to make mistakes with me. I have to train them under higher and higher levels of stress, but start super easy first. But I tell them, listen, I don't want to teach you much at all. I want to teach you like one thing that's pretty good for most things. If I teach you 10 things, you're not going to remember it. I want to teach you one thing that's pretty good for most stuff. That's why I have it in the beginners, intermediate, and advanced courses. The beginners course, all you learn is protect your head, chop someone in the throat, break their leg, gouge their eyes.
Okay.
The first thing is just protect your head, and that's the only thing you know to protect yourself, and it's pretty good for most holds even. It's even pretty good for somebody coming from behind. But I teach them as little as possible, because remembering, and I say this in the class and they all have a laugh, this was taught to soldiers. We're not the sharpest tools in the block.
Okay.
And it's taught to soldiers who have to deploy. It's from World War II. Within 2 weeks, it was taught to spies who are smart. If you're thinking about people like Nancy Wake, the famous New Zealand, Australian heroine in World War II, it's taught to people like yourself that need to go overseas and use these skills within a very short period of time. They don't have time to do a year or two of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So I want to teach you as little as possible, and that's all you remember. Don't have to think about it. Something touches you, hands up. Somebody grabs you, hands up, and protecting yourself. And then once you've realised, okay, I'm not getting too hurt here, I'm not getting thrown around, what the hell can I do? I can gouge eyes, I can chop throats, I can break knees. And you, of any skill, any size, can do that. The 13-year-old girl, she's got 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, and she can gouge your eyes out just as much as a big, strong jiu-jitsu sweaty guy.
Wow, okay. That was good that you mentioned that, because I didn't think about those techniques. I was thinking before, did see on your Facebook how we you talked about, the police are minutes away.
Yeah.
Seconds really matter. I was in a situation where I couldn't breathe for 6 seconds.
Oh.
If it's a 10 seconds, then there can be, like strokes or intellectual disabilities, or because you'll go unconscious. So I had to learn about a non-fatal strangulation. I didn't actually know what that word meant until it happened to me. And so when you say about your hands, because it was while I was holding my daughter, so I didn't have my hands free, I had it, but anyway. And then, so in that situation, for instance, so someone's just holding their child, and then you do think like, I should have done that, blah, blah, blah. But if there is a situation like that, and I was thinking, okay, because at that time I was like, how do I not let it happen again? Yep. And I was really petrified. So I did got other things and talk to other people about it. But physically, what would you suggest? What's an because that's the only thing I can think of right now to get some answers from you about. What do people do in that situation? Because it happens at homes. Yeah, and we talked about domestic violence before, and I have to come back and mention the difference between domestic violence and self-defence. Okay. I'm sure you'll know about that. But to cover what you asked, which is you're holding a child and you're being strangled. I'm assuming that's what the situation is? Yeah, like in a chokehold,
A chokehold from behind.
Yeah, and you're bending over as well, so you can't.
Super hard situation. Yeah. But to be super clear... that person's trying to kill you. Yeah. And again, I'm unreserved about this. I teach good people how to stop bad people. And that person's trying to kill you. So therefore, under WA law, because it's the law I know, and most of international law, you need to use a reasonable amount of force to overcome the force being used against you. So if you choke him and he chokes you, that's the same force, isn't it?
Oh, okay, yep.
You have to use more force. You have to use reasonable force to overcome the force being used against you. We were taught in police, two guys the same size, one guy punches one guy punches the other, you're there all day. You have to do a little bit more. You don't go get a baseball bat versus a punch. But that guy's trying to kill you. You've also now got a baby. How old is the baby at the time? 4. So they can stand on their own 2 feet, but you're doing the maternal thing and protecting it. I'd probably, in this situation, just thinking out loud, drop the kid. Yeah. The kid will land pretty safely. Just don't drop it on his head. Turn and break their foot. And then break their leg. Okay. And then because they're trying to kill you, if you have managed to break the limb, they can't run after you. Oh, okay. They're a murderous intent. But if they can't run after you, because we got to assume our attacker is bigger, faster, stronger. So faster is Usain Bolt. If he can't run after you, then you can scoop your kid up and then get to a safe place. Okay. Get to your car, whether you can use it as a tool. Get to the neighbours, help, call the police. You don't just knock on the door, you say something like that. But in that situation, literally drop the kid so you got your hands free in some way, because it's a liability for you. Turn side on, break the foot repeatedly. If that works, then break the leg, they fall over, carry on. Or, this is a beautiful one, I teach people, in the old days I used to use a machine gun to put holes in targets and bad guys. These days I can't do that, so I use a metal pen. Now if that metal pen is in your waistband or in your pocket, you grab that and you start putting holes in that person, they'll let go of you. Okay. It's just a pen. It's made of metal. It makes a nice hole in a target about that thick, about the same diameter as a bullet. It's not going to win the fight, but it's going to make the bad guy change their mind and let go of you. And then you can get your kid and get to safety. Yeah. So we want to use tools like those to get away. A personal alarm is not going to do that. Yeah, no. Not at all. That's just going to scream for you. And that's nice. If you need that screaming, but in that case, the person's trying to kill you. So if you do have the chance to get a tool or there's something around you, if you're in your kitchen, there's a coffee cup there, you manage to smash it on the head, let's go you a little bit and carry on. But I really want to emphasise there, it's murderous intent, and that's quite hard for people to get their heads around. Again, you did the right thing because you're breathing now. You didn't die. He didn't win the day, but that's an idea of what to do. Not trying to out-wrestle the guy because we're going to think he's bigger, faster, stronger, more skilled. You're going to think he's like a jiu-jitsu Hoist Gracie guy. You're going to think he's armed. You think he's got a pre-plan. And if we think about those things, then we step it up and we start grabbing what we can to use as tools.
That was really insightful.
Can I touch on the domestic violence one though?
Yeah.
Please. Domestic violence doesn't need self-defense. Okay. It needs the person to get out of the environment. Now, that's super easy for a guy to say, but the interesting fact is a lot of domestic violence happens to males. That's just unreported.
That's right.
But when it does go wrong in domestic violence, you sure as hell need self-defense. You know, I'm sure most of the listeners out there have got someone in a domestic abuse situation, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, or financial abuse.
Yep.
You got to get out of the situation. And of course, you're always trying to help that person get out of it. That's not self-defense. That's empowerment and self-esteem and community and support. But there may be a need, as in your situation, if that was domestic, for self-defense at the time. So my personal thoughts is someone going along to a self-defense class in domestic abuse, that could help them get back to the first part, which is empower them a little bit to leave.
Yes.
Which is nice, but I just want to make the distinction.
Yeah, because it is about, trying to flee domestic violence isn't just about, okay, let's go, bye. It doesn't work like that.
Super hard. So easy to say.
And it's about, like, even sometimes people will say, like, why do I go back? Or, or how do I do this? And especially with situations right now, what's happening with the economy and all that. And so it is about, because there's a lot of resources out there. I help men and women because it does happen to men. Obviously, you touched on about that because it's kind of confusing because men are taught, hopefully, not to hurt women. And so when they're getting hurt themselves, they're thinking, what can I do about this besides just stopping them? And it is about self-defense, just trying to get out of whatever they've got you in or whatever they're trying to do and trying to keep the environment, because sometimes there'll be children around, so just keeping it safe, trying to de-escalate and then working on a plan to actually leave. And a lot of the things we need to remember is that there's services out there that they will say, do you mind if I email you or message you? Or so they are thinking about your protection. So say if someone was going to do the self-defense classes and you knew they were in domestic violence and you were, I don't know, like doing a message, do you do messages to remind people of classes? Or how do you kind of keep that person protected in the sense of if their partner is looking at their phone or what they're doing or their schedule or they've hacked into their Google Calendar and realize what they're exactly doing, then what would you suggest so that they know that they are safe with you?
Yeah, tough one. I mean, just the other day I was speaking to a female who's in a domestic abuse situation, hasn't gone physical, and her boyfriend's doing exactly that. She's not allowed on her phone when he's back in town. I'm assuming FIFO or something like that. Communication from those people, it's always initiated by that party, by that at-risk party. Not by myself. Communication for the courses is simple. You buy a ticket to the course online, and then the location is which we keep. We keep the location when it's female only. We keep the location private to only ticket holders, and it's only released a few days earlier.
Oh, okay.
So it's not publicly known the locations of them, and it's only to the ticket holders, and it's emailed directly with obviously a Google Maps link.
That's good.
Yeah, I like to keep, they need to know they're coming along to a safe environment. Yeah. In a bunch of different ways. Can I even get there safely? But just as you were saying that, Nicole, as soon as it goes physical, my opinion is that's the red line. Yeah. Once that line's been crossed to physical, because you can't do self-defense on your abusive partner and then go to bed with him or her that night and wake up with him the next morning. Yeah, we've blurred a lot of lines there. But can I tell you a story about a self-defense situation with domestic abuse? For the listeners out there that might not have experienced it, female that I was in a relationship with, her ex-husband was doing all the types of domestic abuse apart from physical violence. So financial abuse, emotional abuse, and mental abuse. And she was Great Britain Taekwondo champion. amazing fighter. Like, the skill level of that is insane.
Yeah.
And she told me a story. One day he came home and he was kicking off, the emotional abuse, just getting angry, outbursts. He grabbed the microwave out of the alcove and slammed it down the ground, showing his rage.
Yeah.
And then pulled his fist back to go her. She knocked him clean out. Knocked him out cold. Didn't change a thing. Didn't change a thing. And this is for the listeners. I mean, I'm literally preaching the choir with you. The other things that are still there, mental abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse. And if it goes physical, for me, and it's my advice, is that's the red line. It's gone physical. Police are called. He's got a 72-hour police order to leave.
Yep.
There's a VRO served immediately. Off to whatever support you can get with friends. If you can't get support with friends, it's all the people that you've mentioned. And that's the red line, because you can't wake up that person again the next day.
You can't. It's something just happens, in your mind or in your heart even, of like, wow, I am unsafe. And you don't know when it can escalate, and it is random, and it can be about anything, really.
Yes.
There's no, it isn't even about that. So I always touch on the fact that, somebody does exhibit abuse because they can get away with it, because they know they can do it, and they will do it. So if they're going to change, it's up to them. People can change, but only when they actually realise that they're using abuse to get what they want. I used to think that it was because I had an anger problem, but it wasn't that, because they don't use anger to solve their problems with other things. So that was a big learning curve. And there is a lot of support. Like, if you wanted to go even to my Facebook, Beat DV, and I help people.
Great.
Because it is about just connecting them with the right one. I think I saw on your I think you had a post as well, and I was like reading about it, and there were some good places that people were put into. Because the thing is like, what's important is to support that person for the whole thing. It's not, and they go through other things, because there's so many different things that get triggered when you do that. Like the 72-hour thing, then that triggers the VRO, then that triggers the perpetrator to then say yes or no, and then that can go into other things, and then if there's criminal charges, then that goes on to another thing, and then the VRO gets pushed back, but then you're still protected. But then there's a whole lot of things that when you're reading a VRO, that can include things, it cannot include things. So it's important to link arms with the people that can read the document as well, to know, okay, you've got that covered. There's all like different stuff out there. But if I don't mean to laugh, but like we could talk about that for hours, right?
Absolutely.
And it depends on each individual person.
It does, and you don't rely on the law, like as you said before, when seconds count, the police are minutes away. Don't rely on the law, but use it. And then, of course, do something like your self-defense course, so the worst case scenario, or even the door wedge alarm. So you're protecting yourself. You're taking responsibility as well.
Yeah, that's important. That's
Both
definitely,
ends.
because it is about taking responsibility for how you played in the part of what happened, and how you did respond, and then how you can respond later. And, if you say it does go physical, you can be in that victim mindset, but you stay in there, because you have to be a survivor and, get on with what needs to happen. You can't just say, oh, well, that's just how my life is. And, you can make changes to your life.
It's post-traumatic growth. Yeah.
I have not heard of that.
Oh, wow.
Post-traumatic growth.
Yeah, it's not a throwaway term. Trauma is trauma. My 9-year-old boy asked me today, trauma, because we're going through the first aid kit and just putting replacing a couple of items we'd used. He said, what's trauma? I said, it's a massive injury. After that, you do get growth. You can come back from those things, be it physical trauma or mental trauma, but you hopefully grow from that.
Yeah, no, definitely. People can definitely. I speak to people all the time and work with people that there is so much growth that can happen once they realise what's happening, if they can actually have that self-realisation and go from there. So if people wanted to go and find out how not to die, right? And that is for males and females in regards to they can listen to and read your information, watch your YouTube, because even you had a video about phones
Yep.
and how you can like hold your phone up and see your surroundings.
Soft skills.
Soft skills,
Yep,
yes.
absolutely.
Soft skills. Then, you know, so men can learn a lot from you as well as women. But if the women wanted to do self-defense classes, where would they go to find your information? Please?
Super easy. Just go to hownottoDieGuy.com. Everything's there. There's videos that you can watch and learn for free, and there's the classes and workshops you can sign up for. And if you're not comfortable doing it in person, there's online classes, workshops, and courses you can do as well, all at your own pace.
Okay, that's really good to know because I do work with people internationally. So when you say online, what does that look like?
Super easy. I realise that I've been teaching this for so long, but it's only me and, say, a group of 10 or 20 people. I got a film crew in. We filmed the whole beginner's course. We broke it down into 5-minute, 10-minute lessons. It can go at your own pace. I've had people all around the world do it. Some guys that have done high-end courses in combatives and other sports that get a lot out of it. Females as well, but you can do it at your own pace. You just buy the courses online. I've even had some shorter ones, and we've got the full 4-hour beginners one as well.
Wow. I did not think you were going to tell me that. That's awesome. I did not. That's really good. Like, because I was a lecturer, right? So I'm thinking from that point of view, that's cool that you actually did it like that because, you know, we are always trying to think about there's different ways of learning. So you've got your kinesthetic, visual and auditory.
Yep.
So if you're able to do that in that way, then it just kind of embeds in people what to do. Also, when we're teaching people, it's so much easier or they ascertain the information better when they're actually doing it.
Yep.
So if it was, I was watching this video and then I was trying to work out and acting it out by seeing the video, then I would be more likely to remember to do it or not remember, but you know what I mean,
Absolutely.
like the
And
memory.
after the lesson, you got the short lesson, the explanation of how to do it. There's in the military, we demonstration, explanation, practice, and practice has got a timer there, so you can practice with your timer and your reps, and practice and practice, practice. And of course, it's on video, so you just press pause if you need to at any time. And you might do 3 lessons today and do a few more next week.
Wow, that's really, really, really impressive. I'm so impressed that you do this for the community and that you help people because it's such a need. And sometimes we've been told with self-defense you have to do it for years and years for you to get it into your brain.
Gosh, that one really gets me, Nicole. Now, I would love to be able to speak to this one. There's a self-defense instructor in America, very skilled. Most of these guys are way more skilled than I am. I've just done it for a very long time. And he said if he couldn't teach for someone for more than 2 hours, he wouldn't bother. Well, I can teach you, and I was teaching some anti-carjacking with your kid in the car, because that changes things, the other day. I can teach you to grab someone's skull when they get into your car and your kid's in the back so you can't get out of the car and eat their face off, change their mind. I can teach you that in a minute. It doesn't I don't have to take hours of training to do that.
Yeah.
This is self-defense. This is combat. This isn't sports. Now, I've given a fair ribbing at jiu-jitsu and all those things. They're great skills, but this isn't a sport. This is someone gets into your car and your child's in the back and you pick up a door wedge that you had there from Bunnings and stab that into his face. He wasn't counting on that. And then you drive away with him hanging out the door. Everybody who's listening to this can do that now. They didn't have to practice for years. And I'm super passionate about that because you don't have time to come along for hours, but you do need to protect yourself and your loved ones.
Yeah, because I wouldn't think to do that to people.
But now you would.
And it's like, you know, you just go from, you know, because I'm about like love conquers all and allow your inner sparkle to shine. And then, but when you're like, you know, nearly dying, all that is just like not important, right?
Yep.
You know, and so obviously I'm relying on God, but I'm also having to be real with myself and go, okay, well, what can I think about? Like, or what can I do? And like when you're in those situations where it is, you know, only a couple of seconds, you don't and you're just going, how do I get out of this? Or what do I do about this? That's when you need to actually have like a tool belt, which is what you provide, obviously from soft skills, but also hard skills of like knowing, okay, if this happens, this is actually what I do, which is I've got random stuff in my car and obviously in my bag, being a mum, that you can use. And I didn't anything is a weapon to protect yourself, right?
A nice tool.
I was thinking, I don't know if I should say that word, but that's a great idea with the word tool. Yeah, it can be, because it means if you're alive or not at the end of the day.
Well, remember Bollard guy, air quotes Bollard guy in Bondi. I'm sure he never trained to pick up a bollard. And
what is a bollard?
The bollard for the barriers. He was in the Westfield Mall when the guy was in there stabbing and killing people. He picked up a bollard at the top of the escalator and sort of fended the guy off, and he won with the bollard. The guy did go on to stab some other people, but in his situation, bollard guy used a tool. So all those little things are things you can access now. You've got the different way of thinking in those situations.
Yeah, it is about that. It's the way you think about it. Yeah. Okay. And I am being mindful of time because Mo's going to come on for his show. Well, if you wanted to leave a parting message or encouragement to our audience, what would it be?
There are no rules.
Okay.
Anything goes as long as you're safe and as long as you win. So you can hear all the things I've taught you today. You can do all your fancy sports. If you do none of that and you pick up a rock and you whack it on some guy's head because he was trying to choke you and you win, awesome. There's no rules as long as you're safe and as long as you win.
I like that. I want everyone to be a winner.
Yes, exactly.
And safe and alive. That's the main thing. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for the opportunity, Nicole.
You're welcome.